The humid air of Camp Pendleton pressed against Lieutenant Sophia Reeves as she adjusted her tactical vest one final time. Around her, the mixed unit prepared for the joint training exercise that would push every soldier to their breaking point over the next 72 hours. She kept her eyes forward, ignoring the whispers and sideways glances that had followed her since joining this specialized training program 3 weeks ago. Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb approached from her left, his heavy boots deliberate on the packed dirt. "You sure you can handle what's coming, Lieutenant?" he asked, his voice carrying just loud enough for the nearby soldiers to hear. "This isn't some desk job where you can hide behind paperwork." Sophia checked her weapon one more time and replied evenly, "I'm here for the same reason everyone else is, Sergeant, to complete the mission." Webb's laugh was harsh and cutting. "We'll see about that when things get real out there. The desert has a way of separating the soldiers from the pretenders." The exercise began before dawn with a 20-mile forced march through the Mojave training grounds. Sophia maintained her position in the formation despite the extra weight Webb had mysteriously added to her pack during equipment check. Her breathing remained steady as other soldiers began to struggle with the pace. Private Chun stumbled beside her, sweat pouring down his face. "How are you not even winded?" he gasped between breaths. Sophia offered him her water without breaking stride. "Pace yourself and focus on your breathing," she said quietly. "We still have 2 days ahead of us." Behind them, Webb's voice cut through the morning air like a blade. "Look at that, boys. The lieutenant thinks she's some kind of superhero. Let's see how long that attitude lasts when we hit the combat scenarios." Corporal Rodriguez fell in a step beside Webb. "Maybe we should test her limits a little harder, Sarge. Make sure she's really ready for what's coming." Webb's grin was predatory in the dim light. "Oh, we will, Rodriguez. We definitely will. Some people need to learn their place the hard way." By midday, the temperature had climbed past 100 degrees, and the unit had reached the first checkpoint where they would establish a temporary base camp. Sophia worked efficiently to set up communications equipment, while other soldiers struggled with basic tasks in the oppressive heat. Commander Hayes observed from a distance as Sophia completed the radio array in half the expected time. "Impressive work, Lieutenant," he called out. "Where did you learn those techniques?" Sophia wiped sweat from her forehead and replied simply, "Previous assignment, sir. Just standard protocol." Webb approached the commander with deliberate casualness. "Sir, I'm concerned about unit cohesion. Some of our personnel seem to think they're above working as a team." Hayes frowned. "Explain, Sergeant." Rodriguez stepped forward, his voice carefully measured. "The lieutenant keeps to herself, sir. Doesn't participate in unit bonding. Makes the rest of us wonder if she trusts her fellow soldiers." Sophia continued working on the equipment, her movements precise and controlled despite the growing tension around her. She had heard these conversations before in other assignments, though never quite this hostile. As evening approached, the unit prepared for night operations training. Sophia checked her gear methodically, noting the subtle changes Webb's crew had made to her equipment throughout the day. Her night vision goggles had been tampered with, and her backup radio frequency had been altered. Private Chun approached her cautiously. "Lieutenant, I think you should know that some of the guys have been talking. They're planning something for tonight's exercise." Sophia continued her equipment check without looking up. "What kind of something?" Chun glanced nervously toward Webb's group. "They think you're hiding something. Webb says you act like you're better than everyone else, and Rodriguez thinks you might be some kind of spy or something." Sophia finally looked at Chun, her expression calm but alert. "And what do you think, Private?" Chun shifted uncomfortably. "I think you saved my ass during the march today when I was about to collapse. But they're saying you're dangerous to unit morale." Webb's voice boomed across the camp. "Night ops in 30 minutes, people. Time to see who really belongs here and who's just playing soldier." The night operations began with a simulated reconnaissance mission through the rocky terrain. Sophia moved through the darkness with fluid precision, her tampered equipment forcing her to rely on instincts and training that ran deeper than standard military protocol. She navigated the course using techniques that seemed almost supernatural to the watching soldiers. Webb followed her path with Rodriguez and two other soldiers, their movements deliberately loud and clumsy. When they reached a narrow canyon passage, Webb signaled for the others to spread out and block her exit routes. "Lieutenant," Webb called out in a harsh whisper, "we need to have a conversation about your attitude problem." Sophia turned slowly, her stance relaxed but ready. "What conversation would that be, Sergeant?" Rodriguez emerged from behind a boulder, his weapon lowered but visible. "The conversation about who you really are and what you're hiding from your fellow soldiers." The other two soldiers flanked her position while Webb stepped closer. "See, we think you're not being honest about your background. And in combat situations, secrets get people killed." Webb's hand moved towards Sophia's tactical vest with deliberate aggression. "You're going to show us what you're hiding under all that gear, Lieutenant. Time for some honest evaluation of your equipment and capabilities." Sophia's voice remained steady despite the threat. "Sergeant, you're out of line. Stand down immediately." Rodriguez laughed harshly. "Out of line? We're trying to protect our unit from someone who won't be straight with us. Maybe you've got contraband. Maybe you've got unauthorized equipment. Either way, we're finding out tonight." The canyon walls seemed to close in around them as Webb grabbed the straps of Sophia's vest. She moved with lightning speed, deflecting his grip and stepping back, but the other soldiers closed the distance quickly. In the struggle that followed, hands grabbed at her equipment and uniform. Webb managed to get hold of her vest straps again. "Hold her still," he ordered the others. "We're getting answers one way or another." The fabric of her tactical vest began to tear under the aggressive pulling, and Sophia realized the situation had crossed a line from harassment into something far more dangerous. The tactical vest tore away completely under their combined assault, leaving Sophia in her base layer uniform. In the moonlight filtering through the canyon, a distinctive tattoo became visible along her spine, 3 interlocking circles with precise geometric patterns that seemed to shimmer with an almost metallic quality. Rodriguez froze mid-motion, his eyes fixed on a marking. "Webb," he whispered urgently. "Webb, look at her back." Webb stopped pulling at her equipment and stared. The tattoo was unlike anything he had seen before, clearly military, but beyond standard unit identifiers. The design was intricate and purposeful, bearing symbols that spoke of classifications far above his clearance level. From the canyon rim above them, a voice cut through the night air with absolute authority. "Stand down immediately and step away from the lieutenant." All heads turned upward to see a figure rappelling down the rock face with fluid precision. The man landed silently between Sophia and her attackers, his equipment and bearing marking him unmistakably as Special Operations. Commander Jake Morrison of SEAL Team 6 studied the scene with cold calculation, his eyes lingering on Sophia's exposed spine marking before shifting to the soldiers who had been assaulting her. Morrison's eyes locked onto Sophia's spine marking with immediate recognition, the Cerberus designation. He had only seen that tattoo 3 times in his 15-year career, each time on operators whose very existence was compartmentalized beyond top-secret clearance levels. Webb stammered, trying to regain control of the situation. "Sir, we were conducting a legitimate inspection of suspicious equipment and behavior patterns that could compromise unit security." Morrison's voice was deadly quiet as he stepped closer to Webb. "You were assaulting a commissioned officer and attempting to forcibly remove her clothing. That's not inspection, Sergeant. That's criminal conduct." Rodriguez backed away slowly. "We didn't know, sir. She was acting suspicious and wouldn't integrate with the unit properly." Morrison retrieved Sophia's torn vest from the ground and handed it to her with careful respect. "Lieutenant, are you injured?" Sophia pulled the damaged vest over her shoulders, covering the marking. "No serious injuries, Commander. But these soldiers crossed several lines tonight." Morrison nodded grimly. "They did indeed. And they have no idea how catastrophically they just compromised their careers and potentially national security." Morrison activated his secure communication device with swift precision. "Control, this is Trident 6. I need immediate extraction for a Cerberus asset who has been compromised during a training exercise. also requesting security detail for 4 soldiers who require immediate detention and interrogation. The response crackled through his earpiece within seconds. Copy that, Trident 6. Birds are in the air. ETA 12 minutes. What's the nature of the compromise? Morrison glanced at Webb and Rodriguez, who were listening with growing alarm. Attempted sexual assault on a classified operator by training personnel. Full investigation required. Webb's face went pale. Sir, that's not what happened here. We were just trying to maintain unit cohesion and security. Sophia spoke for the first time since Morrison's arrival, her voice carrying an authority that made the soldiers step back instinctively. You forcibly removed my clothing while I was outnumbered 4-1 in an isolated location. That's exactly what happened here. The sound of approaching helicopters echoed off the canyon walls as Morrison positioned himself protectively between Sophia and her attackers. Your military careers just ended, gentlemen. 2 black helicopters descended into the canyon with military precision, their rotors kicking up clouds of dust and debris. The first helicopter disgorged a team of military police officers who immediately moved to secure Webb, Rodriguez, and the other 2 soldiers. From a second helicopter emerged a figure that made Morrison straighten to attention. Colonel Sarah Blackwood stepped onto the rocky ground, her uniform bearing insignia that spoke of intelligence operations at the highest levels. Lieutenant Reeves, the colonel said, her voice cutting through the rotor noise. I apologize for the breach of your operational security. This should never have happened. Sophia nodded respectfully. Thank you for the rapid response, Colonel. The situation was escalating beyond my ability to contain without revealing classification levels. Colonel Blackwood turned to examine Webb and Rodriguez as the military police secured them with zip ties. These soldiers attempted to assault a Tier 1 operator whose missions have saved thousands of American lives. Their actions tonight constitute treason against national security interests. Webb struggled against his restraints. We didn't know. How were we supposed to know she was special operations? Morrison stepped forward grimly. That's exactly the point, Sergeant. You weren't supposed to know. Colonel Blackwood addressed the growing crowd of soldiers who had been drawn by the helicopter arrival. Let this be absolutely clear to everyone present. Lieutenant Sophia Reeves is a decorated operator whose service record includes operations that cannot be discussed but have directly protected American interests at the highest level. Commander Hayes pushed through the crowd, his face a mixture of shock and embarrassment. Colonel, I had no idea about Lieutenant Reeves' actual classification. If I had known, the colonel's expression was ice cold. That's precisely why classification levels exist, Commander. Your failure to maintain proper discipline in your unit resulted in the assault of one of our nation's most valuable assets. Sophia stepped forward, her torn vest now replaced with tactical gear for Morrison's team. Colonel, I request that this incident not derail the training mission for the soldiers who weren't involved. Private Shun and several others conducted themselves with honor. Morrison nodded approvingly. That's the mark of a true leader, Lieutenant. Even after what you've endured, you're thinking about your fellow soldiers. The military police loaded Webb and Rodriguez into the helicopter as Colonel Blackwood prepared to depart with Sophia. 6 months later, Sophia returned to Camp Pendleton as a guest instructor for advanced tactical operations. The same training ground where she had faced assault now hosted a ceremony in her honor, recognizing her contributions to national security. Private Shun, now promoted to corporal, approached her after the ceremony. Lieutenant, I wanted to thank you for what you said that night. You could have had all of us disciplined, but you protected the soldiers who weren't involved. Sophia smiled warmly. Good soldiers look out for each other, Corporal. That's what makes us strong. Commander Hayes, who had undergone extensive retraining on classification protocols, addressed the assembled unit. Let Lieutenant Reeves' example remind us all that true strength often goes unrecognized until tested under fire. The measure of a soldier isn't their rank or their reputation, but their character when facing the impossible. As the ceremony concluded, Morrison approached Sophia with a grin. Ready for your next assignment, Lieutenant? Sophia adjusted her new tactical vest, the Cerberus marking safely concealed once again. Always ready, Commander. Always ready. If you enjoyed this story of hidden strength under pressure, drop a comment about your favorite moment, or share if you've witnessed similar courage in someone who refused to quit when others doubted them.